Hey everybody, it's Alex Miller at Capnion here. You might have seen my video last week. I talked about how, to a surprising degree, I think small business is likely to be where the interesting action is in terms of integrating AI over the next several years. Today I'd like to rehash some arguments from this video and talk about what I think maybe should happen right now on the corporate side. So if you're on LinkedIn much, of course, it's not true that big corporations aren't doing things with generative AI, but you can see people gradually deciding there's too much risk and too much trouble crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. I've said this many times elsewhere, but I think the right way to think about these new AI technologies right now is it can be deceptive, and it is real and exciting. You can do a whole lot without a lot of expense and without a lot of crazy special talent. If you don't have a ton of guardrails around data privacy, if there's not a lot of risk attached to how the thing behaves, and just if generally you can build the thing without a list of 10,000 toes not to step on. This is rarely true at large corporations. If you've got a lot of guardrails, they add a lot of complexity, and then cost can balloon to an exciting and prohibitive degree. So people are working on exciting proofs of concept right now, and I want to give credit. I don't want to denigrate people too much. People are doing really exciting things out there. I think the challenge will be that these things can't really get into production yet for these kinds of risk management concerns. And so what should happen if you're in this position, you're managing one of these projects, you see a lot of value of generative AI, but you feel yourself going down this road of, well, it's maybe prohibitive to obey all these rules I need to obey and to actually employ this technology. So I hate to get two buzzwords going at once, but for various things, you hear this idea of a center of excellence floating around, and I'm not particularly an expert in that thing, but it's the right idea here. And I think the crossroads some of us are at, that I have something to say about, is maybe whatever diagram in some project management Bible we got this proof of concept phrase from. It imagines that if the thing goes well, it can go all the way into production. And I think the gauntlet people are looking at is really that road to production is a little too fraught with peril. But I think there is another path where these proof of concepts really lay the foundation for developing expertise in-house and having a good game plan when the technology matures a little more, when you have a different application, when the risk management situation is different, to then employ the technology and have that be a smooth journey, predictable journey, controlled cost, results in success in a predictable amount of time, and not all the miserable things that happen that aren't that. So, to put things very tangibly, the day you decide the technology's moved on and you want to do it now, who do you have in-house that knows how to do it? Talent in this area, especially the kind of specialized technical talent, really hard to come by, and lots of it's going to be hoovered up by people whose businesses are all about AI. I personally believe that when it comes to building these kinds of things and squaring the circle of satisfying all these different constraints, there's really not a substitute for having done it before. You know, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm starting to pick up this entrepreneurial discourse about, well, there's a lot that's great in failure. And that is an important silver lining to think about if you're working in one of these proofs of concept right now of, well, maybe it doesn't make it all the way to production, But assuming you can retain those employees, you can retain those documentation materials that come out of what you're doing, that is the seed of a really valuable asset, in that it will be very clear when you revisit the issue later how to proceed. You will be attacking those problems with intention that got you stumped the last time versus reacting to them being blindsided. And I would say, I think in the long term, you really can't ignore this technology. The potential is really, really obvious. And I'm not one of these guys that skite out, it's going to replace all employment and just everything's going to be robots 10 seconds from now. But in the long term, it's going to work its way into everything. And a business that wants to stay competitive can not really ignore it in the long term. Final thoughts. You have to sell projects internally. You have to sell what you're doing to whoever's assigning budget and these kinds of things. And it's much more exciting, and excitement makes for great sales to say, oh, we're going to do this, and it's going to be bigger and bigger, and it's going to take over the whole business, and it's going to save $10 billion. Your favorite scientific notation, crazy number, billions of dollars for the corporation. And this risk management brick wall I'm talking about people hitting makes it harder to do that credibly, makes it harder to do it honestly. It's both true, okay, what do you pivot on to now? It's probably not something as good as that if you really want to be straight up with people, but it's great to think about, well, this project, it has a golden parachute. And if we take this long-term perspective, we really want people around that have cut their teeth, as they say, with this technology. And if you ask Alex Miller, and Alex Miller is often right about these things, there's really no substitute for people that have really done it on the level of building versus something a little bit more book learning-y. If any of this is familiar to you and you could use somebody to talk to, you can always schedule an appointment with me via my Calendly link in my profile. And I'd also wish you happy hunting out there, because I bet you're doing something really exciting, and I empathize that this area in a large corporate environment, I think, feels like you're always, the potential is so huge, but then just kind of always one more hiccup, problem you've got to solve before you can really make the big splash. Good luck out there, everybody.